They'll lynch you, but he did, and I think he lasted about a week and a half.
What can we say? What can we say? I don't have a clue what's going on in the West Ham world. Welcome back to the West Ham Network. This is a late show, isn't it? But things just happen left, right, and centre when it comes to West Ham. As we're led to believe, West Ham have seen a £40 million bid for Chelsea's Conor Gallagher. The midfielder in the middle of the park has been rejected, according to reports from several sources. Now, we're led to believe that we looked at potentially paying an initial fee of around £37 million plus £3 million in add-ons for the Chelsea Academy graduate, who is believed to be surplus to requirements at Chelsea as well. Now, he is 23 years old, but he's also subject to interest from our big London rivals, you could call them, but they haven't won a European trophy, obviously, Tottenham. But he's looking likely that he is also open to a move from Chelsea as well. Now, other clubs were interested in him in January. Apparently, West Ham were also really keen to bring him in. But I think that manager back then and now the current manager, Pochettino, wanted to see what he was capable of doing and bringing to Chelsea. But they now maybe see a chance to generate some big dosh for the England international. Now, he's got 2 years left on his contract and hasn't been offered a new deal. And it looks like Chelsea want to bring in Moyes' Casido, but they've been struggling with their progress in making that decision and whether or not the player actually wants to come to the club or not. Now, Brighton have valued Casido's value at something similar to the Declan Rice fee that Arsenal paid for Declan Rice. And this is where the situation gets a bit tricky, because if West Ham are believed to have bid £37 million plus £3 million in add-ons, and that has been rejected, we have, in theory, set the standard of what these players should and or shouldn't go for. So by Declan Rice's price being really valued at high, you're talking about an England international midfielder here, and if there are other clubs interested, this will spark that bidding war. That's exactly what West Ham don't want to get into. Now, it's fine that David Moyes says he wants to bring in Premier League proven midfielders, but you're going to have to pay your premium for that. And that could take away and wipe away a lot of your budget. And that's where West Ham need to really start looking at the whole Tim Steiden thing. And I'm going to bring you a show out tomorrow talking about the situation that's going on there. But it just is not helping the situation, because in theory, what we need to do is just get someone in, not just anyone, but someone who fits the mold. Conor Gallagher fits the mold, in my opinion, and I'll tell you why in a minute. There are other players out there that potentially could fit the mold as well. But I do like the idea of bringing Conor Gallagher in. I really like him. I think he's a quality player. I really think he adds value to the middle of our park. And I'll tell you why just now. He has got an incredible energy in the middle of the park. There's no ifs or buts about it. He drives. He's got the passion. He's got the determination, the commitment also to the cause and to the tackle. But he's incredibly gifted in his technical perspective as well. And, you know, there's no ifs or buts about it. Since he did leave Crystal Palace from his, loan spell out there, that his form has dropped off ever so slightly. But that's just been an equation of him being in and out of the Chelsea team. But if you look back at his time at Chelsea, and even when he was on loan at West Brom, when he played West Ham, you could see quintessentially what he was made of. He was absolutely a fantastic player. He was a deep line playmaker. I think he's a sort of playmaker, and because he's got that grit and determination to get stuck in for a tackle, would absolutely work wonders with Paqueta. I really, really, really do think he would work wonders with Paqueta as well. His energy has enabled him to screen himself as a defensive midfielder as well. Sometimes actually the way that N'Golo Kante used to do. Obviously now not playing at Chelsea anymore, but at the height of his career, he's got a similar style vibe of defensive duties than what he did. But he's also an adventurous attacking midfielder. So that's something that I like about him. He's creative. He gives opportunities, and can do that. And he's incredibly versatile as well. He's featured at the right hand side of midfield, the left hand side of midfield, and also deep line through the middle. He's got many qualities, but the biggest one is his ability and his willingness to do whatever is required of him to help him in the team. And that's something we need to do if we're going to bring someone into that middle of the park, someone that's going to fight for the cause, someone that's going to believe the project. He is a bit of a luxury midfielder, but without the luxury, he's just got this strong will and determination to help his team. And he does it with a smile on his face. And it looks like every team he's gone to, he's done that. And he's always been the kind of model professional. And he's proven in his defensive duties. He really is. And for his age, he's a young, vibrant English midfielder. Then, he is really someone that we should be looking at. He was on loan at Charlton years ago. Lee Bowyer was the manager at the time. And he said, whatever he did ask of him, he just did, and they were just trying to encourage him to get into the box. And then things would fall on a plate for him. And you've seen what he's capable of doing when he plays against West Ham. He can turn, drop a shoulder, and put the ball into the back of the net. He is right-footed, but he is capable of playing very numerous roles in that midfield park. And with the ball at his feet, especially in the final third, he is extremely composed, and his decision-making is good. And that determines how long he retains the ball for as well. And his teammates vibe off that when he gets a run of games. He draws the one quality I really like about him. He draws opponents towards the ball to create space for the others to receive the ball into. So he also knows how to pull that. I think that's what Paqueta is fantastic at doing. So having someone like that and Declan Rice, Declan Rice, oh my God, what am I saying? Can't believe I just said that. And Conor Gallagher in the middle of the park would show us how different style of play we're doing moving forward as well. And he would really advance. He would advance the team. He would. I do believe it. I do believe it. And the question comes to the value, and we'll talk about that in a second because I can see some of the comments coming in. We'll talk about his value in a second. But he doesn't always just do like panicking things. Like he's very calm and collected on the ball. When he gets out wide, sometimes people think, "Oh, just cross the ball in," but he'll cut back and he'll look for a different space, and he knows how to kind of the tempo of the game. He's quite an influential player in his tempo. Now, people may sit here and think, "Oh God, you're bigging him up, Anton. So why does Pochettino want him with Chelsea?" But I do believe there's a player here. I really do. I saw him in training for England, and his determination, man, he gets stuck in. He doesn't give a shit. Like he's got a bit of a tackle in him. He's got a bit of a hot head, but also some people could say that he cares for the cause of whatever he's doing. And when he played for Crystal Palace, he most consistently featured for them as a number 10. And when it's required and the team are required to press, he does so with an aggressive format. Like he gets really stuck in, but he's also willing to go head toe to toe. 2 seconds, actually. 2 seconds, everyone. I've got someone coming on. There we are. Hold on. There we are. Just got someone joining me now. Been sent down. So he is a quality player, but the key question here now will be value. It'll be money. It'll be because I am going to do this show later on about the kind of coaches and the managers and the situation that's going on at West Ham. But essentially, the issue comes now that we've set the standard and clubs expect that us to follow. We've got the money. They know we've got the money, and they want a bit more. Will Tottenham go all out to try and bring Conor Gallagher in? Who will he look at as the most attractive option? Will he look at West Ham as the attractive option, playing Europa League next year? Giving him a chance, going into Euros year coming up to get some international experience as well. So yeah, lots of interesting things. Now, what's happened is, what we're led to believe is that this offer went in on the table to Chelsea last week. And according to some reports, people are saying that it's been declined already. But, I think that's Jason Steinberg from the Guardian has said it's been declined already, but Fabrizio Romano has also now said that there's been no return option from Chelsea to West Ham. So we'll have to wait and see what the option is here. We're looking at two different reputable sources. You've got one saying we've had nothing back from Chelsea, and the other one saying that it's been rejected. So what we'll do is we'll wait and see. But we've showed our intent. But how many times have we shown our intent? How many times have we shown our intent? And that's the key part for me is what do we do now? Where do we move forward from this? Because if this deal's not going to happen, if we're not going to move forward with bringing them in, then where do we move forward? Because it's getting to the point where it's getting a little bit ridiculous with the numbers of players we're going to bring in. I'm going to bring in Dan. Dan, mate, how you doing? You all right?
Hold on a minute, mate. I can't hear anything.
Don't worry, just get yourself sorted and then I'll do it. But there's loads of comments coming in, and Dan, just let me know when you can hear us. So essentially, this is where, in a nutshell, one report says that we've bid for Conor Gallagher and Chelsea haven't come back to us, and another report is saying we've bid for Conor Gallagher and it's been rejected last week. So what do we believe? Where
I can hear you now.
Just saying, Steinberg has said the bid's been rejected. It was in last week. Fabrizio Romano said Chelsea have not got back to West Ham yet, so the £40 million is still on the table. What do you believe, or do you believe anything anymore?
Honestly, mate, what we're up to, about 125 players, and every day you go on social media, there's a new story about what's happening. The transfer committee, Moyes doesn't get on with Steiden, Noble's disappointed. Sullivan doesn't want to overspend. He wants to buy. You just don't know what to believe, mate. It's ridiculous, But my biggest problem with the whole fiasco is we knew Rice was going, yeah, and the fact that the direct replacement wasn't lined up the same week he went is a joke.
Yeah,
we're 3 weeks away, and we're going into a game against Bournemouth with Souček and Downs in midfield.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. If we're really looking at it. And it's just I don't know what to believe anymore, mate. Gallagher's a good signing, but I feel like this one is it's one that I don't know. It appeases both, doesn't it? He's young enough.
Yeah. So let's talk about Gallagher, right? Let's just talk about the player fitting into the mold of West Ham. I spoke about him just as he was coming back off his Crystal Palace loan, going back to Chelsea, and at that point, I felt like he would have been a really good. Before we had Paqueta, felt like he'd been a fit right into the mold of what West Ham do. We get stuck in. There's no ifs and buts about it. He's a creative player, but what we do have is we've got the English inflation. And we've set the standard of the price of what players are going for right now. There's no ifs and buts about it. And the rumour is that Tottenham are interested, and if that's true, then Chelsea are going to happily sit back and look at a bidding war if they can. But it looks like West Ham aren't going to enter a bidding war, so therefore we've put our hand on the table. If it's declined, bang, we're moving on to our 140th linked player. What do we do, mate? I know, and I agree with you. Sorry, going back to your point there, I totally agree with you on not having someone lined up and bringing them in immediately for such a big position.
My biggest problem with the whole thing, right, is that the club have made the conscious decision to bring someone like Steiden into the club. And you have to remember as well that we beat off the likes of Tottenham and a few other clubs that were linked with this guy who really wanted him to come in because of what he's known for doing and the work that he's done in the past, right? We've beat them to bring him in. Now, you don't bring someone like that in unless you're looking to change the way transfers and that side of things is done, And I can't help, as much as everyone is, slagging Sullivan off, I'm by no means pro-bald. I can't help but feel like this is all David Moyes, because we all know Moyes just wants players that could just slot in straight away, Premier League proven. And he prefers players that are slightly older. Yeah. And this isn't what Steiden does. He goes out and finds gems in Europe that are a bit younger, that you can develop at the club, that have a high sell-on price. And I think that Sullivan, potentially sitting back and looking at the big picture And you've got to start making money, mate. You can't. You look at Brighton. People, everyone, whenever I'm on here, people must be bored. I always bring Brighton up, but they lose a player, they have a ready-made one lined up. It never costs what they sold the last player for, and then they always seem to sell at a profit. And slowly you get to a point where you'll be able to afford these players because there's always the money there. You're never going to be, having to worry about FFP because of the amount of money you're turning over. We've never been in this position. This is the first time we've just sold a player at profit. We rarely sell a player at profit. I can't help but feel like this whole transfer committee bollocks, mate. Come on, why are four people having to make a decision on the players that come into the club?
No,
you know what I mean? Like if you're bringing someone like Steiden in to do that job, just let him do the job.
The whole situation baffles me. I mean, I was going to do a separate video on it, but I suppose we'll just talk about it because it makes sense anyway. To do that now, but I don't really know what to believe anymore, if I'm being brutally honest with it, because I try and take some scenarios and put them into the real life and the real world, and I think to myself, if I own something and I bring in a committee, or I have a manager, and then I have like a director, but I'm the CEO, and they're not playing ball, and they're really not playing ball, and they're playing silly buggers, and they're not listening, and I'm now telling people, like if I'm leaking news out to the media that there's problems within the club, that's where my problem lies first and foremost, because you just deal with the shit and you don't make us look like an unattractive proposition. So first and foremost, the leak situation, if whatever is true, because we don't know what honestly, mate, tonight's a prime example of don't know what to believe. This is where we should really be at, because two reputable reporters are reporting two different stories. So
yeah, but even these ITKs, mate, I don't know what to believe anymore.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, though. So we have to take things with a little bit of a pinch of salt and take it for what it is and what's in front of us. When I listen to the whole situation about potentially this committee that they're doing, and they're going to drop this list of 20 players, but the people can't agree, and you've got 4 people, and it doesn't make sense because obviously if it's 2v2, then who wins? All that sort of stuff. It just doesn't add up. But if you're the owner, who's taking the onus? Who's taking the ownership of this? Like you said, it's David Moyes. I can't help but feel like it's David Moyes, but in actual fact, it goes higher than David Moyes. It needs to go to the top shop, because the top shop should be looking down, going, "What the fuck's going on? I brought him in to do that, so fucking do it. And if you're not going to do it, then fuck off." And I know it's easy for me to say that, but for that practical situation to flourish and actually happen. But it's not happening. And then what now is happening is we're 3 weeks away, like you said, Dan, and we've not brought a replacement in, and we're no further forward in looking at bringing anyone in, and we're looking at deals for players that we were reporting on a week ago. Close, Carlos Borges, and where is he?
This is what you got to look at. This is how you got to look at it as well. Like nearly a week's gone by, since that was reported, and it was like as good as done. Like he's a West Ham player. That was basically what everyone was reporting. A week's gone by. So say this is the same situation with a centre midfielder, and 10 days later he signs. Mate, by that time, he's literally going to have 7 days with the club before the season kicks off. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah. My thing is obviously if the club has made this conscious decision to go with Tim Steiden, they want to go in a new direction, bring in young players, develop them through the club, try to be smarter in the transfer window. If that's the direction the club's gone in, but Moyes ain't signed up, why is Moyes still in the job?
Yeah, yeah. But this is what... Right, so we're ugly enough and been West Ham fans long enough, and ugly enough to know what West Ham's like and how it's been ran over the years, right? So me and you have known each other for years, mate. We've been there through the toxic times, and you've heard my opinion on the board. I know your opinion on the situation, but I've become more of a half glass full West Ham fan, especially now over the past 4 or 5 years that we've had a little bit more success. People don't look at the Premier League season as a success, but essentially the memory that we've had ingrained in our brain, for me, overtakes the shit Premier League season last year. But the trajectory of the club right now is the important thing. Using that cup win to move that trajectory forward. And if we don't do that in the right manner, we need to step away from the old habits. And you made the right point there. Bringing Tim Steiden is one step in the right direction, but we seem to be going 2 steps back because
Yes, because he's surrounded by the wrong people. That this is the issue when a man like him's having to work with someone like David Moyes, who's quite stubborn, especially in the transfer window, as we know. You know, he's had players bought from in the past and refused to use them and stuff like that. Like he wants what he wants. I genuinely believe he wants Ward-Prowse, he wants Paulino. I think that would be one of the slowest midfields in the league. I don't know why you would want to do that, but it's just my opinion. I feel like that's what he wants. I feel like Alvarez, I think that's got some legs because we were linked with him quite heavily last year. But I think the price for him is just astronomical. There's better players out there. This is what I don't. This is the bit I don't understand, mate. Like, I'm just Joe Blogs over here, but fuck me. I've done better scouting than the club has this summer. I could have replaced Declan Rice for you. Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know putting a bid in is one thing, actually getting the player through the door and, signing the contract and all the rest of it is completely, different. But there are so many options out there that are, available, that are actually available this summer that, these players have made a point of saying like they want to move on or, they want to play at a high level, etc., etc. And yet we're not looking.
But then this goes back to another question that I remember talking about years ago. And then sometimes we go and sign a player that proves the point I'm about to make. Are we an attractive proposition to players? Like, so for example, you are a massive fan of Fofana and you think, why the fuck are we not looking at bringing him in? No one's made, or people have made a move, but it's not happened.
The bid that doesn't make sense to me, mate. We've had a £50 million bid rejected for Paulino. You are going to get Fofana and Zakaria for that. 50 million. You're going to get 2 players that are arguably, one of them's got a higher ceiling. Yeah. Fofana definitely has. And Zakaria proved in the 8 games he played for Chelsea before he got injured, he can do it in the Premier League. Yeah. The only thing with him is keeping him fit. But for that price, you can get them. But David Moyes is so obsessed with this Premier League fucking shit. It does my head in, mate.
So on that basis, though, if you think about this rule of tapping up, like, I don't actually fucking understand it, to be honest, because obviously nobody fucking knows what goes on behind the scenes. Even the clubs don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Blatantly, Rice was tapped up. Blatantly, Mbappe's been tapped up by Real Madrid. Everyone's been fucking tapped up all over the shop. And now you'll move to a club if you have, if the club will make a bid for you, probably on the basis of the fact that they know that you would move to that club. That's the way I'm starting to feel now, especially when it comes to West Ham. I think the old West Ham and the old clubs used to just bid for fucking players and hope that they would come. But now there's this kind of, I get a vibe the player would come. So Conor Gallagher must have said, yeah, I'll look at West Ham. I'll take a look at West Ham. So we'll put a bid in.
Based on kind of, it's weird, right? Because whenever you used to think about transfers in the past, it was always like a bid went in, that was accepted. Whereas now when it's reported, it's like players discuss personal terms. It's almost like the agents talk to the clubs before bids are even put in now because they're trying to gauge if a player would be interested. That's kind of how I feel. The transfers go a little different now. It's almost like it's changed, in the last couple of years maybe. But I don't know, mate. It's just frustrating as we've just come off the back of, I know the Premier League was pretty average, but just come off the back of winning a European trophy. We've lost our best player and numerous coaches as well. I can't help, because of the sort of person I am, I can't help but look from the outside in and think there's got to be something going on. It can't be all.
You're right. No,
it can't be happy, mate.
Yeah,
it can't be a nice place to work. Coaches don't just walk out, and players don't. The Scamacca one is a confusing one for me. 1 minute he's staying, and he's playing and scoring goals. And next thing he didn't play against Dagenham Redbridge, and then
he was in Italy.
Because he's in Italy, it's like, oh, he must be moving to Italy.
Yeah,
I feel like the Italian media is doing everything they can to unsettle him, but
it's a weird one. It is a really weird one. It's baffling. I think sometimes we try and bring the situation into the real world and come up with our own kind of answers. And you're right, mate. You can't help but look at it and think, we're the only Premier League club that's not brought anyone in, but we've got the most, where we've got a lot of money to spend. Well, within reason, we've got, and we've got room to improve.
There's leeway, isn't there, because of the nature of the deal.
Yeah. And we've got room to improve. We need to improve the team. We need to freshen it up. So what the fuck are we doing? And then when all these leaks are coming out, right? As much as I don't slag off ITKs, I just don't know what to believe, because sometimes 2 different stories, 3 different stories, etc.
Yeah.
Essentially, though, sometimes you can have a look at a situation and you can think something's going on in the background. So we've brought this guy in, Tim Steiden, young mindset. He looks at bringing through young developing players. Mark Noble knows the club inside out. David Moyes speaks out, says, I only want Premier League proven players. Like you said, he's a favourite type of player. A particular player is his favourite player. He'll stick with him, even if he's playing shit. It's his type of guy. So that's what he likes. That mix doesn't make sense. And then when you put that in a room, who is the final decision maker? So if you haven't spoke out and nobody knows who the final decision maker is, then you start to believe, is there a committee? And then if there is a committee and you've got 4 people in the committee, how does that work? Because
it's 4 people with very, very different opinions on our transfer should be done,
and different visions of the club.
Noble and Steiden, by all accounts, are on the same page. Both want, and I can see that as well. You only have to see the work that Steiden's done in his career, and Noble's always just going to want what's best for the club. And you can imagine them 2 sitting there with Moyes, who just wants a certain type of player. It's just the bit I don't understand, mate.
Is Noble vying for the job?
Well, who knows, eh? Who knows? But yeah, but the bit that I don't understand is just how can we sit here, right? And we look at the squad and go, that's not good enough. This is what I would do to improve it. Here's a list of players. I gave 10 players when we were all talking about transfers in our little group chat. I gave 10 players, and different options if some were rejected. How can I sit there and go, well, there's 10 options that would instantly make us better? Because we cannot go into another season starting Souček in midfield and Antonio up top. We just cannot.
No, you're right.
But that's where we're at.
Well, Trust me. That is definitely where we're at, and that's where you can't help but think, fucking hell, man, here we go again. Like, it's that famous meme, in it. It's that.
I don't just want to blame Moyes, but I stand by the fact, mate, that after he won the trophy, they should have shook his hand and gone, "Thank you very much." Especially if they knew they were appointing someone like Tim Steiden, because it was always going to go this way, appointing someone like that and expecting him to work with Moyes.
I've seen some fucking crazy comments on social media, right? To think that. As if it's. I know it's not great in terms of the signings, but we still have to remember again what has just happened to the club. Now, Dan, you said yourself for the group chat recently, didn't you? You said something like, "As much as fucking David Moyes annoys the fuck out of me, I can't falter some of the signings he's brought in, because at the times he's brought them in, they've done well, and we have, all that sort of stuff." But 3 weeks away, you think we'd learn a lesson about trying to bring in fresh faces, bed them into the club, get them, rocking and rolling. But all you're hearing from loads of different sources is it's not just one player. There's talks now about Antonio. There's talks about who else? Downs. Creswell, Scamacca. Like, it's pretty relentless right now. And right now, we should be only really looking at the other way, which is coming in, because you can't lose another 4 players, which I don't think we will, without bringing the relevant people in. It's mind-boggling. It is. Conor Gallagher, though, honestly, comes to West Ham, is he a good fit for the club, mate?
Yeah, I think he is. He gives that midfield so much energy. He really, really does. He's relentless. He works hard. He's actually very good. Presses the ball very, very well. And the one thing I will say about him as well is his head never goes down. He's not. He does waste chances, but he keeps going. And he's always in the box. He's always trying to help. I think he does. If you can replicate the kind of Crystal Palace form, or even the West Brom, when he went on loan at West Brom, he was impressive as well. If you can replicate that form, you got to feel for him a bit, because Chelsea last year, they were just a complete mess, weren't they? And no one really played well at Chelsea last season. But yeah, you replicate that form, I think he's a good fit. 40 million is a lot of money, though.
Well, that's the next thing I was going to ask you. What would be the right money for a player of Conor Gallagher's ability,
mate? You'll get Fofana. You'll get Fofana for 30 million, and I think they're as good as each other. And that's how you got to look at it sometimes. Look, I'm all for buying the right players in the Premier League, but I've said to you all before, the Premier League tax is a thing, mate. If you play in the Premier League, they add 5 million. They just do. It is a thing. The inflation, because of the way the league being what the league is, they do add it on. And especially they're going to add on a little bit extra because they know we've got 105 million sitting there, after selling Declan Rice. So, I just think we need to be smarter. Players, I always say you should look at the French league because the players transfer over pretty well. Fofana is a big one who I'm really, really hot on. I really, really like Kefram Touram as well at Nice. And, he's available for like 54 million euros, which is about 48 million quid, isn't it? Mm. Like that. See, if you're going to spend 50 million on Paulina, why not go and get someone that's 3 years younger? Yeah, he's got a better engine. He's more box to box. If anything, he is a ready-made Declan Rice replacement. Yeah. And just he wants to leave because he wants certain things, but just test the water. You've just got to test the water sometimes and see if you can do it. We've been linked with Alvarez all summer, and he splits. He does split our fan base, and for me. He's not for me. He's not for me. He's got that Souček in him. If he was to be bought, I'd play him at centre back. I actually think he's a better centre back than he is a defensive midfielder. But that's just me. I just think there's better players out there. Sangaré is the one who I thought we really, really should have looked at. I know there's another Premier League club flirting about with him, isn't there? But 25 million. Yeah. And he's an out-and-out holding midfielder, will do that job. And then, you ain't got to play Souček anymore. You just don't. Stick him in there. See, and the thing is as well, we don't necessarily need to go and get 2 centre mids. I've been saying for ages, go out and get either a real defensive midfielder or someone, who's a bit more box to box, but the defensive side of the game is kind of where they dominate. And then just play Fornells and pick out next to each other and let them float.
But it looks like they're aiming at, well, fuck knows what they're aiming at, right? But if we go by what we're led to believe, it's 2 midfielders. That's what they're potentially in the market for. If you spend 40, if the bid has been rejected, which some reports are saying it has, Chelsea are going to be wanting something closer to 50 million, aren't they? So, and that will probably get the deal done. That could be 40 plus 10 million pounds in add-ons. That'll be a budget.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? You're going to go and spend that. You're going to go and spend that on Gallagher, one player, and if you want 2, there's just better value for money outside the Premier League, and the players are just as good. For whatever reason, though, Moyes doesn't want to look at them. And I think a lot of it is because he takes so long to bed players in. He doesn't want to do that. Yeah. If they're Premier League ready, but that's the dinosaur in him. That's the mindset. He doesn't just give people a chance. He won't just throw them in there and hope it works, like other clubs do. So then he wants to go out and buy these players. But, there's just no value in buying 28 and 29-year-olds. There just isn't. You've got, and because of the type of club we are, I know people won't like me saying that because you that should be the last thing you are thinking about, but it has to be in your forefront of your mind as well. You have to be able to make money on players when you sell them. You can't just keep buying these players, selling them at a loss or selling them for what you buy them for. The whole Skamaka one is a weird one. As long as we can recoup the money, I'm sorry, but you should be making money on a player that's only 25 years of age, and he's one of the biggest prospects in Italy. They didn't want him to leave.
But that shows the non-change in from top to bottom of the club, and this takes me back. I'm scared to moan because once I moan, I'm miserable, And then I rant all the time, and that's why I try and stay away from it, because it becomes really infectious. So I try my best to see the best out of the situation. So it's always good to have this, because you've got your practical, the way you look at things, Dan. You've got your football opinion. I'm not going to lie to you. I have sometimes a bit of a very positive outlook to certain things, but equally though, it's tough right now not to look at the situation and see it as anything but positive, because I said last year, we started off the season in the wrong foot, because we started off the season with the exact same team that we ended the season in. So we never had any of our new players start any of the game against Man City. And we were 1 foot back already, because we had Skamaka, who should have fucking played that Man City game. Albeit, I don't care, it was Man City, but if he'd have put that ball in the back of the net, mate, he'd have been off and running for the season. Haaland, Isaac, 2 players that started for their respected clubs and scored on the debuts, and Bosch, the rest is history for them. And I know Man City is a different ball game, but let's just use Newcastle as an example. You bring Isaac in, he starts his game. I think he was signed the night before, and then he plays the next day, midweek. I'm sure he scored for Newcastle midweek, and that was him off the mark. And we just fucked up when it came to Skamaka for that reason. So for me, and also we fucked up because we left things a bit late. We actually fucked up well before that, mate, because we signed 8 players in one window when we should have only signed 4, because the other 4 should have been signed the window before.
Yeah.
So learn the fucking lesson and actually do the business early. And that takes it all the way back to the comment you made. We've known for months that Declan Rice is leaving the club. So what's concerned me is, again, it's got to go through the top. Because bet you any money, David Moyes has had his fucking list of players, which probably included JWP. But the minute that David Sullivan knew he was bringing in this technical director, he was like, hold the horses, hold the horses, hold the horses.
But this is what I've said to you all as well, is why are we signing players to appease Moyes? He's got 12 months left to go.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, he doesn't make it to November. Especially if things carry on and the squad ain't strengthened. He don't make it to November. I'm telling you, he's gone before Christmas. I just can't see it. I can't see it happening, mate. And I can't see certain players wanting to play Moyes' style of football. I just can't. Imagine how frustrating it must be for creative players like Paqueta to have to honestly sit in and just have 30% possession, honestly.
No, I know. And yeah. Let me read through some of the comments. Every single player will be inflated from Clarendon Booze. You're right, mate. You're right. Someone send Moyes to Alcatraz from Peter Chelmsford. Wacky Mackey, Moyes when going out should take Suchek and Criswell with him. Brian Flowers, proper owners and manager that just went to Europe 3 years in a row and won a trophy and spent the money we have, would have us fighting for top 5 at this point. I do believe, the statement of intent, right? So there's a fine balance. I think this is a good time to bring up Aston Villa on the basis of this comment.
Yeah.
Because you could look at Aston Villa's model right now of going, I'm backing the manager. The question I would ask you is, the financial model is a bit fucking ski-whiff right now. Last year I think they brought in Kamara, didn't they? And they paid him 175k a week. But if West Ham bring in Kamara on 175k a week last year, he is our highest earner by, I think, quote me if I'm wrong, 50k.
Yeah.
And that then has to inflate the rest of the team up. So we're in this situation because we've been in this situation for years before. So Aston Villa have gone similar to us and then just gone, fuck it. So they've got 2 players, I believe, on nearly... one of them, I think, what's the lad that's been linked to all the clubs abroad? Is he not on over 200k a week? Was it Carlos? Is it Diego? What's his chops for Aston Villa? He was dating that girl who used to play for West Ham. Mine's gone boggled. I'll find him in a minute. See if someone puts it in the chat. But I think they're paying him like 200 grand a week. And then obviously they've just signed Diaby, who's knocked back her contract at Saudi Arabia. So I do think there's an element of going, it's good that they're backing the boss, but what does that do?
Villa have got a history of doing this.
Yes.
They're happy to break their wage structure if they think that they can get by. If it's going to get them up, if they're going to gain something from it, they're happy to break the wage structure.
Yeah.
See, we just don't take these chances.
But because we can't. And there lies the problem, and this could be another conversation for another day. How far up the chain do we go before it's trying to worry about being a blame fucking podcast, but it coming across like a blame podcast. We're blaming the owners, like fuck the owners, let's march. But but the point is, like, where do we go from here, Dan? Where do we go from here?
Don't know, mate. Honestly, I don't know.
Let me just see what everyone else is saying. Wacky Villa were like us, playing terrible. They got rid of their manager. Now look at them. That's what we should have done. Luis, that's the one from Aston Villa.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sorry, Douglas, fucking Carlos. I could get
Douglas Luis.
Yeah, I think he's on something like late hundreds at Villa. And
the thing is, that's the going rate these days for a Premier League player.
Yeah,
like average Premier League players are all on like 80 grand a week, mate. That's just,
No, but the point I'm making is that if you are West Ham, currently I think Areola's our highest earner, is he? 120?
And that mental.
Yeah. And but to bring a player in, let's say of Onana, who we were looking at last year, pay him 170k a week. Within the next year, you've got to be paying everyone that, especially coming off the back of a European win. Like, you're going to have to, and that's that.
I can't believe we paid that for him.
But that takes that takes the club's wage structure. It smashes it, and then the sustainability of the club running on the turnover and the revenue that we're looking at becomes fucking mental. And we've been there.
No, mate, but unfortunately, if you want to keep on progressing, this is what you have to do. Stuff has to change. It has to change,
or follow the technical director vision. But
even then, mate, like 2 years down the line, they'll want new contracts, and if you want to keep them, then you're gonna have to pay them more money. Yeah. So, look, we're going into our third consecutive year European football, and I know FFP is a bit of an issue, but if we want a fourth year, we're gonna have to start, being smarter in the transfer market and offering the players, a little bit more. This is how you beat off the other clubs as well.
Yeah.
You give these players proper, contracts and wages and whatever. That's how you beat off the other clubs, rather than, being interested, number one target all summer long, ends up at another club. Like things like this, mate. Like, just the whole thing. Every player we're linked to at the minute, though, I don't know what to believe. I'm like,
I know. It is relentless.
Yeah, it's just insane.
You can literally type in West Ham in Google and look at the most recent news. I've just done it now just for shits and giggles. And there are, we're talking about 4 players incoming and outgoing in literally the same page. So it's Alvarez coming in, Gallagher coming in, bid rejected, Scamacca heading out, leaving the club, and Gerardo Becker coming to the club. There you go. And then we had fucking Divock Origi.
Oh, that one is such a smokescreen by the Italian media, and people fell for it as well. People for it straight away. I see it. I went on Twitter this morning, and everyone's like, Divock Origi, that's a shit signing, and it's like, don't fall for it. That's just the Italian media blowing smoke up people's asses because they want Scamacca back in Italy.
And I'm still on the first page. Harry Maguire, James Ward-Prowse. So there you go. 7 players. Carlos Borges, 8 players on the first page when you type in West Ham on the internet. It just shows you how fucking ridiculous it is. Anyway, Dan, it's getting late. We've had our opinion. We'll come back and we'll do a longer one. It wasn't supposed to be a long one, but it was just giving you the update. So, according to reports, West Ham have submitted a bid of £40 million, 37 plus £3 million in add-ons for Chelsea midfielder Conor Gallagher. According to one reporter, the bid was made last week and has been rejected. And according to the other reporter, there's been no word back yet from Chelsea. According to other reports, Tottenham are also interested, so maybe Chelsea are happy to look at a deal for the bidding war. And you're right, Thomas. I did see the Oxlade-Chamberlain link as well earlier today. So there you go. Anyway, Dan, thanks for joining us, mate. Thanks for everyone for watching. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment, and stay safe. And we'll be back tomorrow to discuss 40 new players we're linked to and the new manager we're going to be getting in, and Dan joining the coaching team for West Ham. Come on, you irons.